Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another concert review. I was fortunate enough to have experienced the Farewell Yellow Brick Road tour by Elton John on this past Sunday at the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. For those of you that don't know, that's where the Carolina Panthers NFL team plays their home games. So very cool. First time I've ever been to an NFL stadium. First time I've ever seen a concert that large. It was the largest concert I've ever been to. I'm not sure what the total attendance was, but it had to have been at least 40 to 45,000 people. Um, Previously, the biggest show I'd seen was Paul McCartney in May at Wake Forest University, but this one was huge. But this was a Christmas gift that I'd given my dad for Christmas 2021. So it was a long time in the making. And I was actually kind of worried that the event might be canceled just due to obviously to COVID and things like that that happen, that you can't plan for. But then with the Queen Elizabeth, with her passing, I was thinking maybe Elton might make a trip to England because her funeral was the following day on that Monday. But it didn't get canceled. Dad and I drove down to Charlotte, um, got to the venue pretty early. I mean, as early as we could. We had parking, a couple of blocks from the stadium. Really easy to get in and out of. Well, to get into the getting out of a concert that large is always a pain. But my dad's a huge Elton John fan. He grew up with Elton John. He followed his career probably up until about 1980, and just he knows all the deep cuts and everything like that. He was a big source of comfort to my dad as a young boy, so it was really cool to get to experience that with dad for the first time. I was able to see Elton in 2016 in Charlottesville, Virginia, at the University of Virginia. He was actually fighting the flu that day, so it was neat to see him in a more, in a stronger voice, even though that show was fantastic. But anyway, we got to the show. There was no opener, which I'm all for. And really great crowd. People dressed up in the costumes and the sunglasses and, had boas and feathers and everything. Dad and I did not, but maybe next time. But we got to our seats, higher up. We weren't on the floor or anything like that. And the stage was set up. You had the big, E on both sides for Elton. You had all the percussion, about three different drum kits. The big piano in the front, and all the stuff. And you had songs playing, the remixes of songs and things like that. And then finally, around dusk, stage goes black, and then you hear that amazing first chord of Benny and the Jets, bump, and then the light just shines on Elton, and the place goes crazy, and then bum 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 bum. It just goes right into it, and yeah, it just you know, it was just so good to hear Elton, and then he starts singing, and yes, his voice is lower, but it's been lower since the '80s. He still has a ton of power in the voice. It's just a lower register. So you just have to think of him now as a baritone, and he kills it. And his fingers are all over that piano. It's just unbelievable. So he opens with Benny and the Jets, and then they go into Philadelphia Freedom, and there's all sorts of videos on the screen. Um, Obviously, Elton's a big supporter of all sorts of um, charities, for gay rights, for AIDS and things like that. So a lot of that was on the screen. Very Elton John. It was very cool. And I mean, you had all the hits. I mean, Someone Saved My Life Tonight. That was a highlight for me, even though that's actually one of my least favorite Elton John songs. And that was a great version of it that he did. It just sounded so good. Um, he did an acoustic version of Border Song. It was just him at the piano. He told this great story about Aretha Franklin singing it, and then about Aretha Franklin's last show being at one of his um, one of his AIDS charities, and he said that she looked frail and sick, and he's like, Aretha, you can't go on, you shouldn't do this, and she says, I'm gonna do this, and he said she just blew the roof off the place. So he kind of dedicated Border Song to Aretha Franklin, which is really cool. And I mean, obviously he did Rocket Man. It was really cool building up to Rocket Man. They have like this big NASA countdown, like you hear like the rocket. Excuse me, I'm fighting a sore throat. You hear the rocket, count down with the jet engines and everything, and then he breaks into it. She packed my bags last night pre-flight, and then toward the end of Rocket Man, they do this long jam very psychedelic. And then he comes back into, I think it's gonna be a long, long time, which is cool because when I saw him the first time, the beginning of Rocket Man was like this long jam kind of thing going into it. But he did, obviously he does Your Song, Tiny Dancer, Crocodile Rock, which he dedicates to the fans because he hates that song. And he did some deeper cuts. He did Burn Down the Mission, which is always a big highlight. He did Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding, which was interesting because he had it kind of in the middle of the set, whereas the last time that I saw him, he opened with Funeral for a Friend. So it was kind of interesting to see that in the middle of the show. He did, Guess That's Why They Call It the Blues. Have Mercy on the Criminal. That was a big highlight. The video images that he had for that really went along with the song. It was really cool. And he did one of my favorite songs, Leave On. Absolutely love that song. Obviously, I'm Still Standing. And, he when he came out there on the show, he had this, white coat with tails, green glasses on. And then about midway through, he changed into like a light pink jacket. And then at the end, he came out in this robe during the encore. He did some duet with Dua Lipa, which was probably the low point of the show. She was on the screen. She wasn't there. She's a pop singer. And then he obviously ended the show with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. And it was very poignant because he said, he said something like, the first time I played in Charlotte was in 1972. And I've played in North Carolina 36 times. He said this was like the 252nd show of the tour. And he kind of closed the show by saying, I wish you all good night. God bless you. And essentially, have a good life, because he's not going on tour again. So like, this is it. Like, this is the last time to see him. And it was very poignant. And then he breaks into, when are you gonna come down? And then, they finish the song, and he's got, his core band there with Nigel Olsson, Davy Johnstone, and then Ray Cooper on the percussion, and then a few other guys that have been with him for a few years. And then, he finishes the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. He gets up from the piano, takes a bow, and essentially this little like lift takes him up on top of the stage. And he kind of goes backstage, and then a screen pops up where it looks like it's Elton backstage walking down the Yellow Brick Road. So it was really cool how they ended it, and very poignant. And I'm very glad I went. Glad I got to experience it with my dad. A beautiful night for it. It was like 75 degrees, maybe 80, with a cool breeze going. Just a perfect night. No clouds, nothing like that. So, and a really respectful crowd too. So if you're able to grab tickets to this last tour, do it. I'm so glad I went. So it was well worth driving the 3 hours to get there. So anyway, let me know what y'all think. I know a few of my friends have seen Elton already. I know Robert S. saw him. I know Jeff Witcher saw him. So let me know if anybody else out there has seen him on this tour. In the meantime, y'all take care, be good, and I'll talk to y'all real soon. Bye now.